So today I'm going to talk about boredom. Now, I have heard boredom defined as a situation or the result of a feeling of confinement and predictability. So if you feel like you are sort of stuck in something, there's no easy way to get out, and you feel like it's predictable in the sense of you know what's coming, there's not a surprise, there's not something interesting, you're just stuck in something that you're stuck and you know what you're stuck in. That's basically boredom. I find it kind of interesting to think about boredom because, for one, we're so used to nowadays we have our phones as our constant companions, basically, and so if indeed we find ourselves in a moment of boredom, we can whip out our phones and see if we can somehow remedy the situation. Um, but I think most of us would probably acknowledge that that is only like sort of a quasi cure for boredom. It's almost like a distraction, but you still stay bored or something like that sometimes. So thinking though about longer ago when electronics were like not even a thing, how did they survive? And I really feel like our brains kind of reset themselves based on our environment and our stimuli and our. It's kind of like if let's say if you are used to a steady diet of donuts and cheeseburgers or sushi, whatever the yummy food is for you, and you're forced to go on a diet that's purely leafy greens. As soon as you add in a little cheese with those leafy greens or just a little bit of ranch dressing or something, you're going to be like, wow, this is great, And so it's really, we really are highly adaptable to our environment, and our environment, it's like our brains reset themselves based on our environment, it seems like. So if we're in a low stimulation environment, in other words, no electronics, I think at first most of us would be very bored, probably, or at least might be very bored. But I think over time, I don't think that our overall level of boredom would necessarily go up that much. I think that we would find other ways of amusing ourselves, and we'd probably be, in the end, um, maybe even less bored. I don't know. But it is interesting, sort of, to consider this boredom. Like if you go out on the street and ask everybody, "How bored are you with life right now?" Um, I'm sure you get a variety of answers. I know for me, like how bored I am with life can vary pretty dramatically. There have been times when it's been like very intense and exciting, and like, woo, things are just coming at me almost faster than I can handle. Um, and the challenges are big and exciting, and it's fun and whatever. And then there's other times when I'm like, oh, it's another day, and I gotta do this again, and yeah, no. And like for me, like my work is a major determiner of kind of like my overall life satisfaction, I would say, or kind of just like my day-to-day satisfaction. Um, of course, my relationships, my family, and all that are also a big part. But work, for many of us, work is what we spend a lot of time doing, and so if work fits the category, the description of predictable and confining, then it's probable that we'll be bored in that work. So right now, and even in being self-employed, there's been a lot of variation for me. Sometimes I've been rather bored. Sometimes I've been quite the opposite of bored, almost sensory overload, if you will. And so I would say right now I am a little bored. At least sometimes I'm a little bored, I should say. I would say overall my work is a little more boring than I would like right now. And but there's also some trade-offs there. And there's but anyway, over time hopefully I can do a little less or a lot less of the repetitious work. I can do more sort of creative startup type work, and hopefully have other people to do more of the repetitive work, or get out of that type of work. Either one. Um, so I'm I would say my satisfaction with my work right now is probably, like, just in terms of is it interesting, it's probably on a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably about like a 5. Like, there are challenges and there are fun projects, but there are also a lot of kind of doing the same thing week in and week out. And so, while I am happy for predictable income for some of that repetitive work, it does, yeah, it's not necessarily my sweet spot in terms of what I just love to do in terms of that part of it. So anyway, hopefully some more improvement to come yet there as time goes on. So what about you? Are you bored?